Well, hello everyone. My name is Zachary O'Shea, and this is Box of Teeth. We've been going over a specific villain that you can use for Dungeons & Dragons, and we're now exploring her minions. So let's cover two more waxwork horrors today. Working through the Relic and her minions is an exercise I wanted to share with all of you about how to design a villain for your Dungeons & Dragons campaign, or really any role-playing game campaign, or even a fictional world that you're creating for a book. Kind of bespoke out their minions that really reinforce the themes of that villain, and in this case give them a nice consistent horror feel to present to your readers or your players, whatever you consider your audience in that respect. As a quick recap, the Relic is a fragment of some sort of ancient cosmic horror that is trapped in a soul cage, which is her steel skeleton, which is then enrobed in a waxwork that looks like a dainty woman. She plays the role of an aggrieved widow that's recently come into a lot of money and is a bit naive about the world, but she's really scheming and ancient and wants to gather as much wealth and luxury and power as she possibly can. So let's go over a couple more waxwork horrors of hers. The first of those minions is the smallest of her minions, which is the Wax Mephit. A perversion of elemental chaos, Wax Mephits are artificial creatures patterned off of the common extraplanar nuisances known as Mephits. The Relic developed these creatures while experimenting with small doses of her ichor and wax as she was working towards her tallow, which are her main minions. Fragments of the divine spark within her lit those candles that she'd made, and the wax transformed into small winged terrors. Unlike true Mephits, these faux elementals do not revel in trickery, but serve the construct's whims directly. Comprised of warm wax and flame, Wax Mephits act like loyal attack dogs. At rest, the creatures take the unassuming shape of lit or unlit candles. In death, they cover their slayers with searing tallow that rapidly hardens even as it burns. So let's take a look at their statistics for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. They are a CR 1/2 small elemental creature. They are lawful evil because they serve her directly. They do glow at the strength of a candle at all times. They do have death burst like any other Mephit would, except they do both fire damage and restrain as that wax starts to harden. They can cast prestidigitation at will, but only to light or snuff out other candles. They do have claws, they do have a minor fire breath attack, and they can shapeshift into an unassuming candle. The second of these minions we're going to cover is definitely larger and quite a bit more horrific, and that's the Waxjack. Little more than a cluster of pallid arms extending from a central mass, the Waxjack is an abomination even when compared to the Relic's other creations. She used a process derived from the creation of flesh golems, where she fused several dozen tallows, which are humanoid doppelganger-like minions that she has, into a fresh new horror. Two massive, footless trunks lend the construct a lumbering gait, multicolored marble eyes dot its arms and core, never blinking and filled with naught but malice. It's always surrounded by a faint, sallow glow at all times, yet it has no wick or flame to produce said candlelight. When pressed, this horrific golem creates an intense flash of light to confuse its foes. In the aftermath of that light, the visages of the tallows that were used in its creation flicker in the Waxjack's light for a few seconds, all their almost blank expressions displaying some form of agony. So let's take a look at the Waxjack's statistics for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. They are a large construct that is utterly loyal to the Relic, thus they are lawful evil. They are CR 5. They are amorphous, so they can move through spaces of up to 5 inches wide because they're a bit more chunky and large as they collapse into a column of wax and wiry bits. They do have immutable form. They do have magic resistance. Their attacks are magical, and they do have so many eyes they see in all directions at once and have advantage on perception checks. They can make 2 attacks, which are slam attacks. They can go ahead and make a blinding flare around them that, of course, blinds creatures. And there we have 2 extreme examples. One small minion that is great for swarming heroes, or for being sent to places perhaps to infiltrate and spy on folks in the shape of a tiny candle, or even line one of her layers with several candles where the players don't know if their candle is going to attack them or not. And then we have large, hulking, abominable horrors that can even just slither out of sewers or just through a cracked window and crush the living as needed. I hope you enjoyed the Wax Mephit. and the Waxjack. You can find them along with hundreds of other monsters that are all horror-themed and free for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition at boxofteeth.blogspot.com. As always, if you're more interested in the non-Dungeons & Dragons role-playing content that I have that is horror-based, or the horror fiction that I write that includes grease paint right there, you can always go to www.zacharyoshea.com. Next, we're going to dive into the cosmic horror of the Relict, starting with a few of her stranger minions. All right, everybody, I really appreciate your time and your attention, and have a wonderful evening.